When they were circumcising me, when I was going through the pains, my mother was there looking at me and I was looking at her.
I asked my mama, say, Mommy, na wetin make you cut me? He say na their culture. I say mama cut am.
What just came inside my mind, I said, may God forgive my parents because they don't know what they are doing.
My mother tell me, say when they circumcise you, you don't change to woman.
How can they remove this part from my body? They say it's tradition. Which type of tradition?
That night, all of them didn't sleep because I was crying the whole of that night.
Female genital mutilation, also called female genital cutting or female circumcision, affects 200 million young girls, and its consequences extend for her entire life. To fully understand what FGM is and why it is not in any way acceptable, the language we use to describe it has to be analyzed. Most times in Western culture, circumcision is a common procedure of removing the foreskin of the penis, usually for religious purposes as dictated in the Quran. Apart from there being no holy book or religion calling for female circumcision, for male circumcision to compare, the entire head of the penis would be cut off with little to no anesthetic. For this reason, referring to female genital mutilation as circumcision is often misleading and minimizes the severity of its consequences. After a penis is circumcised by a medical professional, the baby will heal and adapt comfortably. However, as a result of FGM, victims who survive the barbaric practice live with constant pain, urinary and menstrual complications, along with dangerous childbirth for the mother and the baby, and potential infections and diseases, particularly HIV, from the use of the same blade on multiple victims. So what is considered female genital mutilation? First, it's important to remember that these drawings, while being very simplified diagrams, represent a human being's genitalia. Keeping that in mind, FGM can be classified into 4 types varying in severity. On the far left, the clitoris and/or the clitoral hood is removed, which is considered type 1. Type 2 is the removal of the clitoris, labia minora, the inner lips of the vulva, and/or the labia majora, the outer lips of the vulva, almost completely excising or sealing in the clitoris, labia minora, and/or labia majora, often by method of sewing the skin together, is called type 3. The victim is left with a tiny hole where urine and menstrual fluid are expected to pass. This is the cause for severe menstrual pain and urinary tract infections from the accumulation of trapped bacteria leading to the bladder. Type 4 is classified as any other non-medical harm done to the vulva, including but not limited to pricking of the clitoris, burning, stretching of the labia, and scraping. All types are harmful, inhumane, and unnecessary. It is not uncommon for victims to bleed out during the cutting or die from childbirth. The baby may even die from suffocation in the birth canal, with such a small hole to exit through. The victim is often fixed up again by repeating the original procedure. FGM is not practiced by a particular religion or culture. The sole purpose is to control women's sexuality. By destroying the clitoris and other parts of the genitalia, sex is extremely painful, discouraging promiscuity and signaling to her husband that she is a virgin. According to an organization fighting FGM, 28 Too Many, one girl is mutilated every 10 seconds in 28 African countries, the Middle East, Asia, Europe, the USA, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Victims are usually mutilated at a time shortly after they are born to just before marriage. Since this is an illegal procedure, victims or girls at risk will avoid healthcare officials and police for fear of being caught, so they seek help from less than qualified healers. If the procedure is refused by the victim, it is not uncommon for them to be outcast or forced to flee the community.
Here in Pokot, they say first thing you will not be married, you are not going to be called a mother, you are always going a girl.
Women who perform the mutilation, called excisors, are at the highest rank in their society and receive good payment for each girl they cut. Tradition is certainly strong, and breaking away from this tradition would mean these women would be out of a job. even with education and laws forbidding female genital mutilation, desperation and greed wins. Continuing to educate the dangers of FGM to those directly involved and those at risk is still important. So why has this gone on so long?
And I think it survived for so long because the fact that it's taboo to talk about it. I believe that if women become comfortable talking about their experience, that's the only way we can stop this.
Though it may seem that the U.S. is exempt from practices like FGM, there are plenty of girls who are sent to other countries to be mutilated, called vacation cutting. The family will usually set up these trips during summer when their daughter is off of school, so they have her back in time for school again. Even though this is also illegal, it is a bit more challenging to catch. Alternatives are already being practiced and are immensely successful, such as the Maasai in southern Kenya, where girls are welcomed with beads and clothing along with 2 weeks of instruction on womanhood. The girls participate in dancing and singing and learning their rights as women. Silas Apollo speaks to them here.
You have assistant chiefs, you have teachers, you have pastors, all those positions of authority, they can handle, they can listen to you, and they can take up your matter. Do not accept to be violated by anybody, including your father, including your mother. Unaribia mtoto yako an opportunity to be what she wants to be in life.
His messages are of stark contrast to the previous rite of passage and the ceremony surrounding it. Hopefully, more groups who currently practice FGM will transition to a program similar to the Maasai's.
Make your decision as a girl. You have the right to make decisions.
This awful ritual cutting is not the only battle we need to fight. Women have been socially, sexually, and economically exploited. Between female infanticide, rape, incest, child enforced marriage, sex-selective feticide, and FGM, there is a lot of work to be done.
If your father will force you to go for female genital mutilation, you stand firm and say, no.